What's good, YouTube? It's Justice Ace to be paid, and today I'm back with another video. And in this video, I'm going to be talking about Kendrick Lamar's pop-out concert that took place last night. But before I get into that, make sure you leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Do all those things. It helps me out a ton. And if there's a little bit of glare on my glasses, I apologize. Kendrick Lamar's pop-out concert that took place last night is something that's going to go down in rap history forever. This is a huge moment in hip-hop. This is something that's going to be talked about for years to come. This was a monumental moment that came at the very end of one of the biggest rap beefs ever. This was kind of like the swan song, the outro, the final scene to the biggest rap beef of all time. And in this video, I'm not going to talk too much about the actual performances and how good they were and the set list and things of that nature. Even though the show was very enjoyable pretty much from start to finish, there's no real problems that I had for the most part, but I'm more so going to focus on the takeaways that I had from this show last night. And the first and biggest takeaway that I had was Kendrick Lamar is the most important and the biggest rapper we have in terms of cultural currency. It's really not even close. Of course, rappers like Drake are bigger than him. You could argue Ye's bigger than him. You know, he's not as popular online as other rappers, even though he is very popular online. But in terms of cultural currency, he is the biggest. The motion that Kendrick has in terms of like getting people to move is insane. He makes the people move. He makes other rappers move. He has his hometown moving behind him. He makes other celebrities move. He has a level of motion and cultural currency that is not matched right now in the rap game. He had the people in LA rapping Euphoria word for word. Word for word. And Euphoria is a 6-minute diss song. When you have an entire crowd rapping a diss song word for 6 minutes, that's crazy. Now, just to do a quick recap of the show and just send a little shout out to the other artists that were on the show that aren't Kendrick Lamar. DJ Head was there and he brought out a whole bunch of, smaller local artists with him, and not all of them are super small, but still you get the point. And they did their thing and that was cool. And then Mustard had some guys with him, topping it off really with YG and Roddy Ricch, and Tyler the Creator was there as well. Steve Lacy was there. And obviously the star of the show was Kendrick Lamar. He finished and wrapped up the show and gave a great performance. He started the show off with Euphoria, played a bunch of his bigger hits in between until the end, which he finished with Not Like Us, where he repeated the song like 5 times. He played Not Like Us about 5 or 6 times. So overall, a great performance, especially from Kendrick. His breath control, crazy, no background track. Like he was just up there doing his thing, going nuts. And people are missing kind of the point of this show, in my opinion. A lot of people talked about this show in the light of like, man, look at this. Like all of this hate for Drake bonded these people together. Drake hatred bonded the West Coast together and brought them on a united front and had them singing and dancing and having a great time together. But that's not really what I saw. That's not really how I saw it. And that's not what I think the intention was here. I don't think all these people bonded together just because they hated Drake so much. I think that this would have happened to pretty much any rapper that went at Kendrick Lamar, and it was a very personal beef. Now, obviously, if it was just rap back and forth, I don't think this was necessary. But if it was like a very personal beef, like the Drake and Kendrick one had become, I think this would have happened to any rapper that went at Kendrick Lamar, because I feel like the West Coast felt disrespected by what was going on. They felt like they needed to stand behind their guy. So despite all of the differences that they have, despite the disagreements, the arguments, whatever is going on in the West Coast, they were like, look, Drake's not about to do this to us. He's going at Kendrick, and by going at Kendrick, he's going at all of us. This is our guy. This is our boy. This is our representative. So we have to stand behind him. That's what I saw this as. I saw this as the West Coast being a united front against an attack on them. This wasn't, oh my God, we hate Drake so much, let's go at Drake. This was you mess with the West Coast, this is what you gonna get. This is the result you gonna get. You gonna get clowned. Everyone's gonna be on stage dancing. We gonna be lit, turning up, dissing you all night. So that's kind of what I felt it was. I don't think this was a, oh my gosh, we hate Drake, stomp on Drake's grave thing. I think this was a West Coast united front, don't attack the West Coast type of thing. In my opinion, this was them feeling like Drake disrespected their legends dead and alive, especially with the whole AI thing. So they're like, no, we can't go for this. We're getting behind Kendrick. We're showing our boy support. He was the perfect catalyst to bring the West Coast together. He was the only one that could really do that, in my opinion, in the way that it happened in front of our faces and on this worldwide massive stage, because not only does Kendrick have that mainstream appeal, he also has the appeal of the people. He's one of the only artists that can balance that kind of, which is where Drake kind of, misses a little bit of that. So I think that's really what was taking place here. And I think everyone, including the people in Cali and on the West Coast, remember when Drake said, "Get more love in the city that you from." I think they remember that. And I think last night was proof that they remember that. Kendrick was able to get what felt like pretty much the entire city out there in LA for this performance. Obviously because they wanted to see one of the greatest rappers of all time perform, but this was also right after he pretty much universally won the biggest rap beef ever. He had pretty much all the culturally prominent figures in LA there. He had the rappers there. He had the actors there. He had the ball players there. He had all those people you can really think of, the singers. He had them there. They were there enjoying that performance. They were there enjoying Kendrick Lamar. And, I don't really know the layout of the land out there. I don't really get into that type of politics stuff when it comes to let's just say groups out there. If you want to find out that type of stuff, go watch No Jumper or something like that. I don't do that over here. But we all know that, there were some, let's just say, different groups there. And they all seem to be in harmony. They all seem to be there backing up their guy, backing up their West Coast guy. And that is in pretty much gang capital USA is pretty much what LA is. So, I'm not going to get into that because I don't know what's going on there. I don't know who's who. I don't know nothing. All I'm going to say is we clearly saw different people there, different groups of people there, and they seem to be in harmony. And I don't think that any other rapper can get a city or a region behind them like Kendrick Lamar was able to do last night. I don't think any other rapper is able to do that like Kendrick was. In terms of everyone being behind them and just being like, listen, this is our guy. We're riding with him. I don't care what you say. Because obviously in other cities, they're going to be like, this is our guy. And they'll be like, no, he ain't this our guy. And then, I think Kendrick might be the only rapper that can do that right now. Atlanta is not getting behind Future the way that LA and Cali just got behind Kendrick. They're not. They love Future. I'm not saying they don't love Future and they're not going to show him love. Don't get me wrong, they are. But the way that the West Coast just got behind Kendrick, they're not doing that for Future. The way that the West Coast got behind Kendrick last night, they're not doing that for Kanye in Chicago. You might be able to say, they might do that for Drake in Toronto, but Toronto isn't LA in terms of cultural impact. It's not an LA. It's not a New York. It's not an Atlanta. It's not on that level of cultural impact. So maybe Toronto's getting behind Drake like that, but it's not the same because it's not a major city within the culture. And I got to put a disclaimer on this because I know some people are probably going to get offended by me saying this. They're probably going to take this as disrespect, and that's not really what I'm intending to do here. But over the last couple of months, pretty much since this beef has started, it felt like Kendrick has breathed life back into the West Coast. And I don't mean any disrespect, but when we're talking about regions of rap, over the last 10 years, bro, mostly we're just talking about the South, Atlanta, and that's pretty much it. We're talking about Atlanta. And then we're also talking about the Midwest as well. The South and the Midwest have really been running rap over the last decade, maybe even further back if you really want to go. And you could even go further back to probably the late 2000s, early 2000s when it comes to the South. But after that, it's maybe Florida, because I don't really consider Florida the South, but maybe it is. I don't know. But then it's East Coast and then West Coast. It hasn't really been anything crazy. And I'm not trying to get up here and start East Coast and West Coast beef or anything like that. But this last night was the first time in a while that I felt that I felt that West Coast unity. I felt that West Coast power again. Because in terms of the mainstream, that has not been there in a really long time. At least in my opinion, the West Coast has not felt like a power in mainstream music in a while. And again, I'm not trying to be disrespectful. And of course, there's always LA artists pop in. There's always artists from Cali that are popping and doing their thing and going crazy, even in the mainstream. I'm not saying that there aren't, but in terms of the West Coast as a whole, feeling really, really in the mix and really putting their chest out there, I haven't felt that in a while, probably since SOBX RBE were going crazy. I think that was the last time where I felt man, the West Coast is kind of going nuts out here. But last night, it felt like the West Coast was saying listen, we're still here. We're still here, and we're not going to let you come at one of ours. If you West Coast, we rocking with you. This was also very clearly a victory lap for Kendrick Lamar after the Drake beef. This was the repass after the funeral where everybody's eating food and dancing and having a good old time. The man literally played Not Like Us 5 or 6 times in a row, something crazy like that. And I think this will be remembered as the moment where everyone kind of just put a bow around this beef and just kind of put it to bed. This is going to be that moment that people remember it as. In 20 years, when we're talking about this beef, we're going to talk about, the Like That verse. It's F the big three. It's just big me. We're going to talk about Meet the Grams being dropped right after Family Matters. And then we're going to talk about this concert where he literally has LeBron and The Weeknd jamming out to Not Like Us 5 times in a row. LeBron James, my glorious king LeBron, is out there dancing to Not Like Us being played 5 times in a row. Kendrick Lamar had Russell Westbrook, DeMar DeRozan, all the LA members, LA community figures, LeBron again. I know I keep mentioning LeBron, but all of them together dancing to a song that calls Drake a PDF aisle 5 times in a row. If that's not a monumental history in rap, I don't know what is. I know it's corny to see something that happens in the moment and call it historic when it happens, but that's just what that was last night. That was historic. And Drake was already being looked at differently before this performance, but after, I can't even imagine how he's going to be looked at, especially on the West Coast. Like, on the West Coast in LA and Oakland and all these places, like, it's going to be kind of weird for Drake, I bet. Now, Drake is going to get love wherever he goes. Like, don't get me wrong. He's still Drake at the end of the day. Drake can go to Timbuktu, he can go to France, he can go to Iceland, and he's going to get love because he's Drake. So don't get me wrong. It's not like I'm saying he's not going to be able to perform in LA. The crowd's going to hate him. No, I'm not saying that, but I expect it to be a little different. I expect to hear some Kendrick chants when he's in LA. I expect to hear some Not Like Us chants. I expect to hear some maybe OV Ho chants every now and then. I'm not saying the whole crowd, but I expect there to be some people kind of hijacking a little bit of Drake's shows in terms of the crowd kind of going against him just to go against him because he's on the West Coast. Now, it's not going to ruin his performances. He's never going to go back. But you understand what I'm saying. There's going to be a little bit more animosity now when it comes to Drake. And I bet when you play his music out there, people are going to let you play it. I'm not saying you can't play Drake in LA. You can't play Drake in Cali, but you're probably going to get some looks. You're probably going to be like, come on, man. You playing Drake. That's probably what it's going to be like. You might get some quotes. You might turn on, one dance and somebody might say, certified lover boy, you know what I'm saying? Like, it might be something like that. This concert being on Juneteenth as well was a perfect move from Kendrick Lamar because a large portion of this beef and the issues that Kendrick was having with Drake were centered around his potential cultural identity issues he was having, some racial identities that he may be having, some racial insecurities that Drake may be having. So having this on Juneteenth was very interesting, especially because, in the song Euphoria, we don't want to hear you say the N-word no more. That was a major part of the song. Him calling Drake a colonizer of Black American culture was a massive narrative that Kendrick was pushing throughout this beef. So writing the final chapter of this beef on Juneteenth was a beautiful move. It was very smart. And Juneteenth has been a federal holiday for like a couple of years now, but it's never really felt like a holiday to me. It's always kind of felt like one of those, like, here, damn, like, get out of my face. Like, y'all been begging, here, take the holiday, bro. Take the day off, please. Get out of my face. That's how it's always felt to me as a holiday. Like, when you have a little kid that's just been begging to play games on your phone, like, please let me use your phone, let me play. And you're finally just like, all right, bro, take the phone. Just take it. All right, get out of my face. Because you just been to their will of being so annoying. That's how I felt about Juneteenth. That's how I felt, not how I felt about Juneteenth. That's how I felt the holiday was given to us. It was just something to just be like, all right, bro, just go over there, enjoy your little day off, whatever, take your day off of work, go barbecue or something, get out of my face. That's how I always felt about Juneteenth. But this was the first ever Juneteenth that felt like a celebration to me. This was the first ever Juneteenth where I was like, man, unironically happy Juneteenth. Unironically, I had a good Juneteenth. That was the first time I ever felt like this. So that's a little thing I want to throw on at the end there. But overall, this concert is something that's going to be remembered as historic. And I know I've been somebody who's been saying that, I don't think this beef is over and I think Drake's going to come back with something, but he probably still is going to come back with something. But at this point, it's just not going to matter. I just don't see a world where Drake can do something that's going to matter in terms of unraveling this bow that's been already tied on this beef. Unless he has like the DNA test from Dave Free proving that it's his kid and he has a video of Kendrick just, putting his hands on his, unless he has that, it's probably over for good, Drake. I'm not going to lie. You just got to take this L. And I still like Drake. I'm not going to be a Drake hater, but you just got to take this L. But that's going to be the end of my video. If you agree, if you disagree with anything I said in this video, let me know down below in the comment section. If you made it this far, I greatly appreciate you. I go by the name of Pay. Have a good day. Be safe. Be blessed. Peace.